think what my message to you here would be is take heart. We are so used to being on the back foot, but actually you guys, us guys, are on the front foot on this one. Because your case is actually quite simple. Often when it comes to union issues, unless you're part of it, the public kind of switch off and it's kind of cut through all the right-wing media about, oh, they're just complaining about themselves and just being selfish and, you know, union barons and all that kind of nonsense. But the fact that what you're saying is, for the last 10 years, you have not had a pay rise, and in real terms, that means you've had a pay cut. Never mind keeping up with just the basics. And so your demand just for an inflationary rise is really minimal. You're not asking for the world, and nobody should be able to deny you that. And so for the opposition to present it as anything other than that, you know, is obviously wrong, immoral, but I think for me it'd be getting that message out really clearly, because this is now a public perceptions, hearts and minds battle. You've done all the hard work. I was really impressed that you've done all the graft in terms of all the financial summations and all the analysis, you know, so no one can come back at you in terms of the actual case. So now it's just a perception battle. And you've got David Eastwood, you know, on this eye-watering salary already, and shamelessly another £90,000 on top that he's just accepted. For him to be able to come out and justify the cuts and the injustice and the disparity, that really is what they're doing, he needs to answer that case. And we need to make sure that the fire is put on him as well, in terms of justifying what the action is. The Prime Minister of this country is like on a fifth of what he's on. So, you know, for him to justify what, in terms of running one institution. And I think we also have to expose, whilst we're talking about David Eastwood, it's always good to kind of draw the lines clearly in people's minds. And I think it's right politically to focus on him, because I think he symbolises and encapsulates not just about one person's greed, but the system. Because he's been allowed to do this because of the various boards that he sits upon, which pass this kind of injustice. So people like you and me have to protest, be out the system, lobby, try and get some attention, make our case. They can sit in their cosy meetings, nice warm rooms, have their coffee provided, and sign off huge amounts of salaries to one another, just like that. And it's about who sits on those boards and how those decisions are made, and the lack of transparency around that. So again, on a fundamental principle of transparency and democracy, this is something, by taking this on, it's a bigger picture. Because this is symptomatic of what's wrong with our whole system. When we talk about in those slogans, the 1%, the 99%, the few and the many, your battle right now crystallises all of that on so many levels. And the fact that you've got unity now, because they love picking us off and dividing us up, so we get caught up in that. The fact that you've got academic staff alongside support staff, alongside students, uniting. That's why I was saying I was really impressed and heartened, because I know that takes a lot of work and effort to get everyone aligned when everyone's got so many things going on in their own lives. That again is really, really critical, that solidarity and that unity, so that you can't be picked off. That will just give us an alright deal here, and then everybody else gets shafted. That's what they did with the bin workers. They got unions to do each other over. Let's not forget that. You know, we've got history of this in Birmingham. You know, we've been strikes where one union cut a deal. So, naming no names right now. So this is what we've got to be wary of, and that's why I commend the work that's been done. And in terms of human story, you know, it was so moving, and I think that again needs to be just promoted a bit more. When you had a staff member explain her day and her week, the getting up at 7, dealing with the kids, not being able to see them even straight after school, paying for all of that, whilst on, forget minimal, lower than that, working day in, day out, 7 days a week, having to go home, feed the kids, put them to bed and go out for another job, and be back again. And somebody like David Eastwood saying that her demand is unreasonable, when she's doing a great job at the uni as well. So there is nothing unjust, unfair, greedy about what the ask is here. And if you win here, and Birmingham University as an anchor institution, and now I speak as prospective mayoral candidate for the Labour Party, what I would like to see on a strategic level is that anchor institutions across our region, including the NHS, which I work for, which nationally and globally is one of the largest employers, in fact is the largest employer in the world. But Birmingham Uni has a local, national and international profile. And what they get away with here, they'll get away with everywhere else. If you stop them here, this will be not just symbolic, but a very practical gain for the left and progressive movements as a whole. Because, as I was saying, we're bringing in a lot. You have brought in a lot of those issues. It's not just about one issue about pay. It's about gender parity. You've got that very explicitly on your agenda. So this is about the women's movement. You've got about the casualisation of employment, the need for contracts, what that means for dignity and security. And that's again a fight that you're not alone in. You know, the 0-hour contracts, that's something that a lot of people in society are facing. And for a university, and you know, universities are supposed to be institutions for critical thinking, it's supposed to be the space for thinking about what's good for society, what are right solutions for technology, for geography, for science, and for human beings, surely. And if they are implementing the severe face of capitalism, because often capitalism can put on its soft face, but the mask is slowly, you know, it's been coming off, and now we're faced with the ugly realities. And this is where we've got to come out and fight hard.